Okay, that was horrible. When you're out on a plant floor that's probably, it's at least 2 miles long by 1 mile wide, the bathrooms aren't on the floor. They're up sets of staircases and along hallways upstairs and things like that. And the hallways are like, you'd think, not really a hallway, but like just barbed wire cage type things, netting that you stand on. So you have to climb across those and stuff to try to find your way to a bathroom. So not the simplest day, and it probably took about a week before, I still don't think I found all the bathrooms, but I found the main ones. And yeah, it's hectic and they're everywhere.
We'll start with Ella.
Mm-hmm.
Each of your companies has lingo specific to your company, whether it's acronyms, shortcuts. Sierra already said CRM. How did you feel like you were not speaking a foreign language? How did you learn the lingo? Or are you still learning the lingo?
Well, for me, it was definitely a challenge because English is not my first language. So, excuse me, not only did I have to learn like the professional English that I might not have seen already, but also like the lingo from the company. It was definitely a challenge in the beginning. I think American people speak very fast, but I think I picked up on it now. Just don't be afraid to ask questions, and my supervisors are very nice and they know my situation. So even though I might be embarrassed from time to time to ask a very simple question, don't be afraid. And I feel very confident in the language today. So.
Next question?
Same question?
Great question.
Okay.
We have different lingo.
Yeah, and there's always abbreviations for everything. There's plenty of things that you're going to see in the workplace that you wouldn't have known in school, because when it comes to your schoolwork and everything, you've got examples, you've got your book, you can always read stuff. And how many times, I'm sure most of you in here have done it when you're in the middle of lecture and your professor is flying through something and you're like, oh, I didn't get that, but you may be too shy or too afraid to ask a question, kind of interrupt the classroom, so it just goes on and you're like, oh, I'll figure that out later. When it comes to work, if you miss something, they're going to expect you to get it done. And if you're like, oh yeah, I got that, and then you go back and you sit down at your desk and you're like, I have no idea what they were talking about, that's on you. You have to be willing to say, okay, hold on, I don't understand this. And I did that plenty of times. I was working with a quality engineer one time where he was explaining things to me and he was talking about process standardization, and I stopped him right away and I was like, hold on, what do you mean by that? And it was just as simple as, documenting everything you can and getting everything caught up. So there's plenty of different, lingos and terms and acronyms. And when you run into these things, you have to ask, because even though you have, your job to do, I think it's a good thing, at least for me. I always had this mindset of always trying to expand your knowledge and always trying to learn as much as you can. So not only can you do your job well, but if it comes to someone else is sick that day and your supervisor may say, hey, we need you to help out on this. Well, you could say, oh, well, I've never seen this stuff before. Or you could say, oh yeah, I observed that, or I asked enough questions and I'm, able to do something. So it's definitely a big step as far as your freedom and being diligent in learning as much as you can and trying to be a better employee each day. The more that you try to self-improve, just the better off you're going to be, no matter what it comes to what you're doing. So if anything ever comes up in the classroom or at work or wherever and you don't get it, raise your hand. There's no stupid questions. If you don't get it and someone else does, what good does that do you? If you don't understand what's going on, it's not going to help you at all. So make sure, to say, hey, I don't understand this, or could you explain this to me in a different way, or whatever it takes so you understand what's going on and you can be more of a help than in that case.
So Tuthill has a very unique culture, and so on the first day they give you like a 15-page report, like size 8 font, like you barely read it, of just acronyms, and it's insane. Like you can try to memorize it all you want, but you're never going to memorize all of them. And it was really hard for me too, because like I said, when I first started, I had no business classes, so I didn't understand a lot of even business terms. And so it just, for me, honestly, it took a lot of self-studying, like you said, and and it's just going to take time. And even now, I think I'm still learning things every day. And as you get thrown into even like more and more complex projects and you start working with other departments, you're just going to keep learning them and learning them and learning them. And the more you hear them, the better they're going to stick with you.
I have to say that as a controls engineer, you've got your own little language, basically. Sometimes when I first started there, the guys would come up, okay, I need you to go into this processor and this program, toggle this bit, and you're like, okay, what's the processor, what's the program, what's this, and the routine. But they got their own little jargon and their own little language, and you're kind of immersed in that, so you fully start to take it in, but it takes a little bit of time. And as far as at GM, acronyms are like our worst enemy, because there's a 400-page document on all of the acronyms that they have. They're saying, do you know what this means? And I say, no, just go look it up in the document. And so there's stuff like TIS, QRP, SRP. It's crazy, and so sometimes you just have to, like you said, you have to stop and you have to ask them, say, hey, what's this mean? I don't understand what you're talking about. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Google's your best friend. So.
I would say probably similar repetition. Like I keep saying, sometimes they forget you're an intern. I mean, they'll just throw things at you and assume that you already know what they're talking about, but just don't be afraid to ask. You know, you're not stupid because you don't know. You don't know because you don't know. You just started. And then same thing kind of with Tuthill. Cintas has a really definite corporate culture. So the very first day I received a book, it was actually like a chapter book that their corporate had written called The Spirit is the Difference. So I was assigned that to read, and that helped a lot. It kind of taught me some of the words and their culture and what they're all about and why they do the things that they do.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. Just make sure you ask questions. No one's going to respect you less. I found in my case that there were 3 of us interns that once we started asking questions, I think they understood that we were paying attention. And so they would explain it and they would actually slow down. It's not a problem for them. Again, they just kind of forget that you haven't been with the company for as long. So they just throw those terms at you. It also helps in later classes. So like I would experience stuff in my internship and like have lingo thrown at me. And then I would, like a semester later, have that same term come up in class and be like, oh, I already know exactly what that is. And you have a better understanding in your academic classes as well, just because you've already experienced those things at work.